this thing on? Because it's getting ready to be on.
Hello and welcome to Bell Ringer. My name is Greg. Your guest name today is Scott Balaguer, President of the Americas region for Edwards Vacuum. Edwards recently announced a nearly 600-job, over $319 million expansion intended to be located at the Western New York STAMP site out in Genesee County. Edwards plays a critical role in the semiconductor industry and plans to expand that role at the site and be a part of the growing supply chain across New York State.
So Edwards Vacuum is a global supplier of vacuum and abatement equipment or exhaust gas management. We are a key supplier to the semiconductor industry worldwide in the manufacturing of chips.
So, semiconductor obviously is like a hot topic, hot industry right now nationally. For folks that don't understand it as well, I suppose as simply as you can, like, what role does Edwards play in the supply chain of the semiconductor ecosystem? Why is your work so critically important?
Well, I think, everybody has now recognized that semiconductors are vital to national defense, but they're also vital to our economy. And even our kids now understand what a chip is, right? And when you can't get your laptop or you can't get your phone or you can't get a car because the chips aren't there, there's a shortage. And so why is it so critical that we contribute to this industry? Because we have a capacity issue and we need big IDMs, integrated device manufacturers, to produce more chips for us.
Right. So tell folks a little bit about, why you're in town today. Obviously, you announced an expansion at the STAMP site in Genesee County. So first, what was the impetus for the expansion? And then we'll get into the reasons why you chose this, location and to do it now. But what was the reason from a business case for you to pursue this expansion?
Yeah, I think there was three, Greg, in particular. So the first one was capacity, as I just kind of referred to. So we could not supply enough pumps and abatement systems to our customer to run their factories. So we need more capacity. And our main factory is based in Seoul, South Korea, and that just wasn't keeping up. So we needed a bigger factory. That was number one. Number two is we're part of a big reshoring effort, right? We want to bring semiconductor manufacturing back to the United States, right? And number three is Edwards is a science-based target initiative company. We're passionate about the environment. And so doing away with shipping pumps on an airplane, which is not good for the carbon footprint, and using a factory that is basically going to be run with hydropower made an awful lot of sense from a sustainability perspective.
Right. And, you talk about the hydropower right there in that answer, low cost, reliable power that is accessible at the STAMP site that you'll be occupying in Genesee County. Obviously, that's one of the big benefits that companies see when they choose to expand to Western New York. From your perspective, as you were looking at, different locations on where to locate this onshoring effort, what made sense in Western New York? What convinced you to land it here?
Yeah, another good question. So, Edwards has been doing business in New York for well over 50 years. We have good customers down in Albany in that area. We kind of call it the New York corridor. So this is a familiar place to us. Our first footprint in New York was on Grand Island, right? And now we have a facility in Sanborn, and this will be our third in this area. So we know New York well. The state of New York and the Genesee County Empire State Development, the Rochester authorities here were so responsive, so cooperative, and really eager, to have us come to town. And they had a great site that was all prepared, ready to go for us. So from a timing perspective, it made a tremendous amount of sense. And in addition to that, we think the workforce here is going to be great.
Right. So obviously a global company. I've actually been to your facility in Sanborn, but just level set the scope of what this expansion will be. Do you have square footage, jobs type numbers? What do you expect this to really become in Genesee County?
Yeah, this is going to be a flagship factory for this organization and probably one of the biggest that we've ever built. And so when this is all said and done, this will be a 260,000 square foot factory. There's going to be an awful lot of equipment in there. We're going to produce thousands of dry pumps that go to North America. And over the course of time, we'll add 600 jobs to this region.
All right. So to fill those 600 jobs, obviously you need people. One of the assets you mentioned was the workforce that you're able to tap into by locating there. You know, we're making this pitch all the time, talking about, being able to pull from two labor sheds between Buffalo and Rochester, the highly trained, highly, loyal, well-educated workforce here. But as you're looking, you're a business making a business decision. As you look at it on paper, what convinced you of that? And I know, a lot of it is the meetings that you're in today and while you're in town the next few days.
Yeah, in fact, we have 3 solid days visiting, local universities, colleges, vocational institutions, training shops, and so forth, looking at equipment, and all set up by our friends at STAMP that have organized this. So, today we're at the University of Buffalo. We'll be at RIT. There's just a big list of places that we're going to go to and develop relationships with all of these guys so that we start early in the process. And we want to be first in mind when it comes to these, the best and the brightest graduates coming out of these institutions, and they think about Edwards as a good choice for a career.
Right. One of the interesting things, I was talking to Kim Grant on our team, who has worked on the project with, yourself and your team. And she talked about the impact that you want to have on some of that lower level, earlier education pipeline throughout the region. I know you're meeting with, Say Yes to talk about some public school graduates. You're not just, it seems to me that you're not just looking at, people who can get a job tomorrow. You're really invested in the region and becoming, a workforce developer as well for some of these, future employees of Edwards.
Yeah. Well, I think we're realistic enough to know, Greg, that we're not going to get everybody that graduates out of a college. We have to start now. And the competition, quite frankly, for good workforce is going to get keener as we go. As more semiconductor companies come back to the U.S., and of course, we welcome Micron, coming into White Pines. That's a great customer of ours. That's well known. That's going to be a huge facility that needs lots of people as well. So we all have to start early, right? And I'm talking high school. And so we were at Say Yes earlier today. What a tremendous organization. Hats off to those folks in terms of what they're doing. It's a topic that's passionate to us in terms of the right thing to do. And we want to get these kids at that stage and start now. Because when the factory opens up in 2024, that's not the time to start looking for workforce. It's now, or yesterday for that matter.
Right, exactly. So I want to zoom out and talk about kind of the industry as a whole. Obviously, there's been a ton of importance put on the semiconductor industry. You have the CHIPS Act at the federal level. So there's a lot of investment to start bringing these companies and the production here domestically. I first wanted to ask, you mentioned reshoring and onshoring earlier. How much of it is we just need to be making more of these chips here locally, and how much of it is a reaction to some of the disruptions that COVID had on supply chain issues?
Well, COVID certainly did because, people were out of, working from home for a long time. And so the need, for more data storage, the need for more laptops and computers and phones went high. And that caused some of the shortage. Now that that's gone, the inventories have gone up. But this industry is going to continue to grow, and it will soon be $1 trillion in terms of the semiconductor industry. That's a number that's really true. And so whether it's the pandemic or whether it's the geopolitical issues and so forth, we need to get semiconductor manufacturing back into the US. It slipped away to Asia, and now it's time to bring it back so that we can control our own destiny when it comes to this advanced technology.
Right. I just wanted to ask personally too, you've obviously visited the region, you're here right now on some of these workforce meetings. Just, we're always interested in what other folks are, what their impressions are of Buffalo, Western New York when they're, poking around here. So I wanted to just kind of get some of your first impressions of the region. We know the business case, but any other impressions that have been impressed on you?
Well, I think it's the people. And again, I want to thank everybody that's supported our efforts for sure. But, traveling here quite a bit when we opened up the factory in Sanborn, it was always a great place to come. Everybody likes to go to Niagara Falls. I think it's a good place, up in this part of the state. And you can't go wrong with the wings here, no matter where you go. So I've just found this part of New York to be very, very accommodating, nice people. and ready to get to work.
Great. Well, we super appreciate your commitment here to Western New York and all the work you've done up until this point and continue to do. Before I let you go, we always end on a couple hard-hitting blizzard round fun questions. So we'll start with, if you were a flavor of ice cream, what would you be?
Chocolate.
Okay. How about what's a book or TV show that you'd recommend?
Yellowstone.
That's a good one. Do you prefer a text or a phone call?
Text.
How about hiking or skiing?
Skiing.
I don't know how this one will go. How about Bills or Sabres?
Bills or Sabres? I was rooting for the Bills big time this week. Big fan of Bills because I hear so much about it being up here all the time. I'm from Texas, but originally from Boston. So that's bad for you guys because that means I'm a Patriots fan by heart.
That's what I was nervous about.
Yeah, exactly. But we were rooting for the Bills. I'm sorry. You look like the Bengals knew how to play better in the snow, I'm afraid.
I'll take the, you rooting for the Bills. I'll take that as a win at least.
Absolutely.
And then last question, you just mentioned the chicken wings. Do you prefer a drumstick wing or flats?
Big time on the drumstick. I need the meat on the bone, man.
Perfect. Great choice. Really appreciate everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. And we're excited about being here and can't wait to get the shovel in the ground at Stamp.
Bellringer is a podcast by Invest Buffalo Niagara, the region's nonprofit, privately funded economic development organization, bringing new jobs for our neighbors and new investment for our neighborhoods. Come grow your business with us.